Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Teeny's Desserts. Today we're going to be making eggless chocolate cupcakes with colored icing. Hope you enjoy. I'm assuming you all have your hair out of your faces and have washed your hands, so we're going to start with the ingredients. Please preheat your ovens to 180 degrees and let's get started. So first we're going to sift together all the dry ingredients. Got your sift, put that on there. 3/4 cups of flour. So now you've got 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Level that out with the bag and add that in. 1 whole teaspoon of baking powder. Level that out and add that in. Again, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Finally, cocoa, which I'm sure is a lot of you guys' favorite. We're doing 3 teaspoons of that. These little bits that are left in the sift, they're usually the worst, so just throw these out. Don't try and sift them back into the bowl. We're now going to set this mixture aside and move on to the wet ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients, as I'm only making a small batch, I'm going to be using the tablespoon for the butter. If you're making a bigger one, obviously use a weighing scale of some sort to measure out the butter. So I'm going to be getting 3 tablespoons of butter. I always tend to add just a little bit more butter because I feel like the texture comes out a little bit better, but that's personal preference. You can always change that. As you can see, I'm only using a spatula for this as the mixture is very minimal. If you're using a big one, use a hand mixer or something with a little bit more stability. Now once you've gotten your butter out into your bowl, we're going to start by making that pomade. So with your butter, you just need to make sure it's soft and easy to work with. If it is not, please do stop this video right here, wait for your butter to be soft, and then come back. I've now got my 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, which I'm going to add into my mixture. And I'll just mix this until it turns into some kind of a pasty with a nice texture. Once you've completed it, you should have something that looks like this. I know it looks a little bit bad on screen, but it should be nice and soft and have a very good texture to it. We're now going to add just a touch of vanilla extract. This is again up to personal preference, but I wouldn't say to add more than about 1/2 teaspoon. Scratch that back. And then just stir this in. This will give it a little bit of liquid so the paste will become a little bit more light and wet. After you've done this, you should have this little bit dough-like paste, which you will now use to add your dry mixture into. Alright, so now grab your mixture from before and grab your 1/2 cup of milk, and we're going to use those together by exchanging them to put them into the wet mixture. Alright, so start off by putting 1/2 of your milk, so 1/2 of your 1/2 cup, and pour that into your butter and sugar mixture. I always like to keep a towel handy that you can just use for if the milk spills or anything spills, it just makes life easier. Once you've added 1/2 of that, now add 1/2 of your dry mixture. You should have this interesting looking mixture. Now mix that all together. It won't mix perfectly, but it'll get combined, and then we're gonna add the other 1/2. Once you've seen that the majority is combined, you can add the other 1/2 of your mixture. So now I've got this nice mixture, chocolatey looking mixture, which I'm now gonna put into the oven and set that to bake for about 15 minutes. Alright, so this mixture is meant to make about 9 or 10 cupcakes. I feel like it's a little bit less today, but it fluctuates depending on certain things. So I'm gonna set in 8 for now. If I need more, I'll add more. So here are my liners, nice red and white polka dot liners. You can use any liner, just make sure it fits into your cupcake tin nicely. If it doesn't, your cupcake isn't gonna be quite round and it might just flow all over the place. So I'm just gonna dump these in. And now we're set to go. Okay, this part might get a little bit messy, so just make sure you have a towel or some tissue at hand just in case your batter falls. I like to have my little set, so I've got a spoon and a spatula, so I'm just gonna be using this to put it in. You can always use an ice cream scoop, but this batter is a little bit liquidy, so it's not gonna work the best. Okay, so I've seen that I still have a little bit of batter left over, so I'm just gonna add maybe one more cupcake and let's see if it fills up. Now if you've got batter like left in your spatula like this, always use another spoon or anything else to get that out so that it all gets into the mixture. You don't want to be wasting any of this precious batter. And there we go. So that's about 2/3 full. If you've got it around there, you're fine. You're just gonna have a little bit of ups and downs. You might have some higher raised cupcakes, some lower. It's fine. If you've got tablespoons lying around and spatulas and bowls and everything, it just becomes very hectic at the end. Either you or someone else is gonna have to do all that washing. So please do it as you go along. And now it's time to bake, so let's get these into the oven. Now, while the cupcakes are baking, let's move on to the icing. This is what I like to call the icing secret. All you need are 5 ingredients: butter, icing sugar, possible food coloring, vanilla extract, and possible milk. Now, the #1 rule I always go by is the ratio for icing. It's 1 to 3. So 1 butter to 3 icing sugar. I know, that's a lot. So supposing you put 20 grams of butter, you put 60 grams of icing sugar. Okay, so 75 times 3 is 225. So that's what I'm gonna add of icing sugar. I use Lin icing sugar. It's a local brand. It works for me all the time, but any one will do. I don't like to add the whole 225 at once because then the tray gets really full. So I think I add it in about intervals of 100. And please, please remember to sift this in. If you do not sift your icing sugar, believe me, it is not pretty. As much fun as making the icing can be, do not lose track of your cupcakes, please. We don't want them to burn. So let's look back in here. So they're rising quite well. The time now, it's been about 12 to 13 minutes. I'm just gonna check them quickly. If they're not done, I'll leave them for another 5 minutes. All right, so to test them, all that you need to do is get a knife, a toothpick, anything will work. And we just need to stick that vertically down the cupcake. If you pull out your thing and it comes out with a little bit of crumbs, that's great. If not, and if it's a very wet mixture, then do leave it for a few minutes. Mine is still a little bit wet and the batter can still be seen, so I'm gonna leave it for about 5 minutes, so mine are quite close to done. So just mix the icing together. It's a lot easier to use a hand mixer just because the texture is a lot better, and mixing the color in specifically will be a lot easier for you. So we're just gonna use this. You only need 1 knob, so let's get started. So just put it on 1, you don't need it very high, and just make sure you've mixed it until it's pomade, just like we did in the batter. Now what I always like to do is add milk to my icing. I think it makes it taste better and the texture comes out great. Remember to just stop and get your spatula and make sure everything's all mixed in. Grab everything from the sides and just mix it in. If it's come to a stage where you don't really need the hand mixer anymore, don't use it. It's always great to go manual than automatic. So as you can see, this didn't make very much icing, but this is all I need. If you're making more, add more accordingly. Alright, so now just check your cupcakes again using the technique I showed you before, and if they're done, they're ready to come out. So take them out and leave them on the side. Try to put them on a marble or some kind of cardboard surface. A cool way to just get rid of the icing from your whisk is just to turn it on in the air, not too high because then it's going to go everywhere, but just at a decent level, just that it all comes out, and you've got very minimal left on it. So I'm using Americolor gel colors. You can use any color you'd like, just liquid ones work as well. So I'm gonna get my blue. Now if you're using gel colors like I am, they are very, very strong, so please do not add too much. Add literally just a drop and that will be enough for your cupcake. Place your nozzle into your piping bag, close enough to the edge so that you can cut the tip off. If it doesn't go through, push it back slightly, cut a bit more of the tip, and then let your nozzle come through. So you get a cup, or like a largish long cup, get your piping bag, and you put it in the cup. You then get the top of your piping bag, and you fold it. Once you've folded this, place it over the cup and create space in the middle. This is where you're gonna put your icing. So get a spoon, you've got your icing, and just slowly, just scoop it all in. Twist your bag so it's like a pencil and it's easy to use. And now we're just gonna ice. So go around in small circles.